You know, family, one thing I will never get used to is the way Meghan Markle can simply breathe, and it triggers a coordinated smear campaign from the depths of the British press machine. It doesn't matter what she does: win awards, raise her children in peace, launch humanitarian work, create entertainment for children. There's always someone, somewhere ready to twist it into something sinister. And this time the so-called controversy is about a children's animated series called Pearl that never even made it to our screens. That's right, a show that never aired, never streamed, and was publicly cancelled by Netflix in 2022 is somehow back in the headlines thanks to, you guessed it, another dubious hit job that conveniently targets Meghan right when her star is rising again. Let's get into it. So here's the setup. Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, in collaboration with Netflix and David Furnish, who by the way is no lightweight, announced an animated series called Pearl back in 2021. It was described as a story about a young girl who learns to find her power and gains inspiration from influential women throughout history. That sounds like the kind of uplifting educational content we all say we want for kids, right? Something that empowers young girls, teaches them about iconic women, and promotes self-esteem. Apparently not. At least not when it's Meghan Markle doing it. Now, fast forward to 2024, and suddenly a British children's author named Mel Elliott pops up in the Daily Mail, of all places, claiming that Pearl was just a little too similar to her own book series, Pearl Power. She says the similarities were too great to ignore. She claims she reached out to Archewell and Netflix, didn't hear back, and now believes she was, what, copied? Overlooked? Erased? Let's unpack this. First of all, Pearl Power and Pearl are not the same. Elliott's books don't feature historical women. Meghan's series does. The general themes of female empowerment and a young protagonist are common tropes in children's media. It's like saying any book about a wizard is a rip-off of Harry Potter. It's nonsense. But more importantly, the way this narrative is being weaponized is crystal clear. Instead of celebrating the fact that Meghan Markle wanted to create a show that would elevate young girls and spotlight trailblazing women, something the world desperately needs, the media is turning it into a question of plagiarism, exploitation, and arrogance. And why? Because it's Meghan. That's it. That's the real crime here. Because if anyone else, anyone not married to Prince Harry, not vilified by the tabloids, not living free in Montecito, had developed a show like Pearl, this wouldn't even be a story. Let's take a moment to appreciate how absurd this all is. A cancelled show is being dragged into the headlines 2 years later because someone claims they had a similar idea years before, even though the show was never aired and even though no legal action was ever taken. It's a desperate attempt to stay relevant at Meghan's expense. A woman who had cancer, and I'm truly sorry she went through that, is now saying she hopes her complaints helped get Meghan's show cancelled. Think about that. Rather than seeing an opportunity to uplift young girls globally through collaboration, she's pleased that the entire project got canned. What does that tell you? This is not about copyright. This is not about creativity. This is about clout chasing and opportunism wrapped up in faux outrage, all served piping hot by a tabloid press that's been on a relentless mission to destroy Meghan's character from day one. And let me be real. Meghan doesn't need to steal anyone's ideas. The woman is an actress, a producer, a writer, and a humanitarian. She has an Emmy-nominated docuseries. She and Harry secured a $100 million deal with Netflix not because of someone else's idea, but because they have their own unique voice and global reach. Let's not pretend this isn't about jealousy. Meghan is a black woman who married into royalty, refused to be silenced, walked away from that toxic institution, and is now building her own empire. That is the real problem for some people. Let's talk about how Pearl was just one of many animated projects that got the axe when Netflix started cutting costs in 2022. It wasn't personal, it was corporate restructuring. But now, Elliott wants to position herself as the reason the show got cancelled. Sis, make it make sense. You either wanted to collaborate and be included or you wanted it gone. Which one is it? And another thing. Where was this concern when Meghan was being hounded by the British press, smeared daily, racially abused and lied on? Where was the outcry when Meghan's name was being dragged through the mud for daring to speak her truth in a world that wanted her silent? It's funny how people want to benefit from Meghan's visibility when it suits them, but say nothing when she's being crucified for simply existing. Let's also not forget the projects Meghan and Harry have brought to life. Harry and Meghan broke viewership records. Heart of Invictus showcased veterans' triumphs and resilience. Live to Lead featured global changemakers. Meghan's podcast was #1 on Spotify. These are not the works of someone scrambling for ideas. This is a power couple creating meaningful, impactful content that inspires and uplifts. Meanwhile, the same tired tabloid outlets keep trying to push the narrative that Meghan is somehow washed up, irrelevant, or unoriginal. It's not working. The people see through it. Meghan is booked, busy, and unbothered. And the haters can stay mad. Let's also not ignore how this kind of petty accusation plays into the larger agenda of trying to diminish everything Meghan touches. They did it with her cookbook. They did it with her SmartWorks fashion line. They even tried it with her Windsor walkabout during the Queen's funeral. If Meghan painted a mural tomorrow, somebody would say she copied Banksy. That's how ridiculous it's gotten. Meghan Markle's cancelled Netflix show faced plagiarism claims from children's author, the Duchess of Sussex's planned animated series. Pearl was scrapped in May 2022. Meghan Markle's scrapped Netflix animated series is now facing plagiarism allegations. British author Mel Elliott recently told the Daily Mail how Meghan's Pearl series bore striking similarities to her Pearl Power children's books. Elliott said she and her lawyers reached out to a representative for the Duchess of Sussex and Netflix multiple times, but never heard back. I would have loved to have contributed and collaborated. A British author is claiming that Meghan Markle's proposed children's series for Netflix bore striking similarities to her children's books. Mel Elliott told the Daily Mail that Pearl, a TV series announced by the Duchess of Sussex in July 2021, for which she and Elton John's husband David Furnish were to serve as executive producers before it was dropped, had similarities too great for me to ignore to her children's book series, Pearl Power. People has reached out to representatives for the Duchess of Sussex and Netflix for comment. Pearl centered on a little girl who learns to step into her power and finds inspiration from influential women throughout history. While Elliott's 3 Pearl Power books didn't initially feature famous women from history, they did center on female empowerment and equity. In 2018, years before Meghan's Netflix announcement, Elliott says she started working on plans to turn Pearl Power into an animated series. She said her idea was to open each episode with Pearl presenting a school project on a famous, inspiring woman before going on a shared adventure. Test animation for the first episode, which was set to feature tennis legend Billie Jean King, is still available to view on Elliott's social media pages. Elliott told the Daily Mail, "Meghan is a feminist who sticks up for other women, so I was disappointed and confused to see how similar Netflix's proposed show Pearl was to my own Pearl Power, who had been created 7 years earlier. Of course, I can't know if anyone on her team had seen it and been inspired by it, but the similarities were too great for me to ignore." The world of arts and media are very competitive, and I'm afraid it's quite common for powerful people to rip off the work of less well-known creatives. Although I'm not saying that's what happened here, she noted. Elliott said that her lawyers sent Meghan a letter via the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's charitable organization, the Archewell Foundation, in July 2021, and the author herself followed up with personal missives to both Archewell and Netflix in October 2021 and February 2022. However, she never heard anything back. In May 2022, Netflix announced that Meghan's Pearl series had been cancelled. At the time, the streamer said they were scaling back on animated projects, citing Pearl as one of several children's shows that were cancelled around the same time. Elliott said, "I am glad that Meghan's Pearl show was dropped, and I hope that I had something to do with it. But what I really wanted was for it to have gone ahead, and for me to have been acknowledged or invited to work as a collaborator on the series." She added, "Pearl was my dream project, and now, annoyingly, if I reprise my own creation, it's going to look like I've copied the idea from someone else." What saddened me most is that, having brought the similarities between my Pearl and Meghan's Pearl to the attention of Netflix and Archewell, my objection was never acknowledged, she added. Neither Netflix nor Archewell responded to me when I would have loved to have contributed and collaborated. The author claimed that she didn't take her plagiarism claims public at the time to avoid public scrutiny. She was also in the midst of a health battle, having been diagnosed with breast cancer in 2019. Prince Harry and Meghan signed a deal with Netflix in 2020 for a reported $100 million. In addition to With Love, Meghan, which premiered in March and will have a second season air later this year, they starred in the docuseries Harry and Meghan in 2022. They also produced Polo, Live to Lead, and Heart of Invictus. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex's Archewell Productions also plan to adapt romance novel Meet Me at the Lake by author Carly Fortune to the streaming service. But here's the beautiful thing. Family. Meghan and Harry are winning. They are living in truth, raising their children in love, creating projects that matter, and walking in their purpose. They don't need the approval of the British press, and they sure don't need to plagiarize anyone to be great. Their work speaks for itself, and so does their integrity. So let's support them the way they deserve. If you're tired of the nonsense, if you're done with the double standards, if you're proud of how Harry and Meghan continue to rise above the noise, then I need you to subscribe to this channel right now. Tap that bell so you never miss a new video. And if you want to support this platform and help us keep telling the truth, hit that super thanks and drop a comment to let Meghan and Harry know you've got their back. This has been your Royal Sussex Squad. Stay unbothered, stay brilliant, and stay loyal to the truth. We ride for Meghan, we ride for Harry, and we're not backing down. Until next time, family, peace and power.